Today we are talking about mixing for phone speakers, especially bass. Mixing bass for phone speakers. Let's have some healthy expectations about what's going to sound good on a cell phone and what won't, even before we start in with the mixing tips and tricks. And if you're interested in these kinds of things and production tips, do like and subscribe. I do a weekly live cakewalk production session, and I put out videos every now and then. So do like and subscribe and hit the little bell if you want to be notified of the new ones. All right, thank you. Genre expectations, let's talk about this a little bit. Because if you're making jazz tracks, folks are probably going to be not listening on a phone. So you could prioritize those like big, deep, round sounds rather than bass presence on the phone. If you're making trap, then it's all about those hats and top clicks of the bass, where the sub bass is just assumed. It's going to be big and in your face and in there. It's assumed in the genre. If you're making phone game soundtracks, prioritizing the phone speaker sound is really important. So I hope that these tips can help you do that and make anything sound decent on a phone speaker, knowing that it's not the best system to listen to music. Just it's not. With bass, first things first, you want to make sure that you've got things out of the way of each other. That's I'm not even counting that as one of the tips here. Just making sure that your kick frequencies are out of the way of your bass frequencies. You can do that with side chaining. You can do that with frequency carving, like carving space for each of the instruments. Okay, great. Let's assume you've done that. Phone speakers themselves don't really go much below 200 hertz. I tried to look up some frequency response graphs of cell phone speakers. They're kind of hard to find, and the information is sort of sketchy. Like, I'm not sure where they got that information. It looks like it could be right, but you can also test your own phone by getting yourself like a frequency generator app. I have this one called Frequency Generator, which you can see here. Looks like this. This generates a sine wave frequency. I can play this frequency and you don't hear anything at all, right? Because it's at 19. That's really below human hearing anyway, but definitely below phone speaker hearing. But then like bring it up. Still nothing. There's something at like 225. And it's not loud. And I'm not dealing with the volume at all here. This is all the frequency, just lower sound softer. And you can hear where it gets boosted is going to be obnoxious. As I bring it up, up here in like speaking range at like 1500, turn that down, at like 1500, then it's a lot more boosted. Cell phone makers want to be sure to prioritize the human voice. Test your own phone and note those frequencies. So like around 230, really more better at like 3, I start to get some sort of bass, which isn't even, you don't really consider that bass when you're dealing with the full spectrum of your music. Bass is more like 60 hertz and like 100 and 200. 200 is like more of the thump of the bass, whereas 60, I talk about like the whump and the thump. So like the 60 to 100 is like the whump, where you feel it more than hear it, and then the thump is like the more at the top of the bass. So those are two things important to think about when you're mixing too. The limitations of cell phones are just tremendous. It's a total drop off. So that in mind, that brings me to my first tip. Create a crappy phone speaker aux track in your DAW that you can run your mix through and hear, that you'll run it through in mono. So let's look at that now. This is a recording of a new track that I'm going to be coming out with my band Aloe Recliner. We're a chill, cozy beats band. Anyway, this is sounding really good, but the bass guitar was not coming through the phone at all. So let's have a little listen to what it's like now, and then we're going to go through the things that I did to fix that. First, let's create a simulation of a phone speaker within our DAW that we can kind of test mix through. Click this on the master. From the master bus, create a send with a new aux track. And then find your new aux track, and we're gonna name it phone. Go to the Pro channel, this little triangle here. And with the Pro channel open, double click on the EQ, or real-time analyzer here. And we are going to create a simulacrum of a cell phone speaker. After having tested my phone and looking at some frequency response graphs, which I have linked in the description if you want to look at those too, I know that everything drops off really sharply at about 200. So I'm going to just smash it all the way up there. And I'm going to also give it a low pass to get rid of the very high frequencies. I'm going to bump it at about that 1500, 1500 hertz. That's where it got kind of obnoxiously loud on my phone. Let's look at our frequency response thing again. I had kind of a nice sound at about 350, 349. Boosted at about that too. 350, there we go. Okay, so that's roughly how a crappy phone speaker might look. And I'm gonna save this. Save preset as phone speaker so that I can use this again. Because I'm planning to have this special phone aux channel on all my projects now. All right, hit OK and save that preset. Also want to set it to mono, and that's this button here with the little lines, looks like a bow tie. Hit it and it turns it into mono. I want it to be pre-fader, so we'll turn that off. I'm gonna mute the master bus, and I'm gonna solo the phone bus, and let's hit play and see how it sounds. It's sure showing me that I can tame some of those top frequencies, but I've got good thump in my kick drum. And some of the higher frequencies in the bass are coming through. So that's good. And just to compare, let me give you the full fat version. We're going to mute that and unmute our master. So it's not that I'm going to mix 100% on this crappy phone speaker bus, but I want to use it as a tool so I can kind of check my work as I go. Number 2 is you want to EQ your main bass track with emphasizing the kind of picking sounds. So let's look at our bass track itself. To find those picking sounds is to do an EQ sweep. So I'm going to make this really, it's already quite narrow. I'll make it even, the Q more narrow. It should be somewhere. That nice string slide. Doesn't look like there's anything up here, but there might be. Up here is where I'm wanting to boost. And it seems goofy, like it seems like you wouldn't have that much information in bass guitar in that range, but that's where like the picking and the sort of top sound is, and that's what can pop through on a phone speaker. Number 3 is to add saturation. Let's talk about what is saturation. Saturation is like low-level distortion, so it adds harmonics to the sound. It kind of widens and thickens the sound by adding more frequencies to it. There's high-level saturation, which is distortion, and then there's saturation, which can be really subtle. And really, you'd only hear it coming through the phone. So what I like to use, and there's different plugins for this, but Cakewalk comes with a nice free one. In the Pro channel, just right-click insert module, and it is called the saturation knob. You see it? Saturation knob, dun dun dun. And I will click that. And it's just one of these beautiful one knob control kind of plugins, which I think are fun. And so let's have that on it. And I'll push it till it's wrong, as I like to say. And you'll hear what it does. All right, that's where it's like distortion gets sort of like farty. We don't want that. So we're gonna back it off until I can't hear that like fuzz anymore. But I still have some color. It's fuzzy. Still a little fuzzy. Still a little. And I want to put the saturator after the compressor. And actually I should turn on the compressor. So those very loudest hits get snatched up by the compressor. Tames them. But yeah, so compressor and then your saturator. It sounds nice and smooth, but I know that there are some more frequencies that are going to help it come through. I can save that preset too, and I want to save that as Sarah Live Bass, because that's a nice saturation level. You can always saving presets is helpful. My last tip is to take the bass track, duplicate it, and make it an octave higher. Mix it way back so that you're not hearing it as like an octave or effects pedal, but it's helping to get the movement of the bass into higher frequencies that can be picked up by a phone. Let's do that. I'm gonna go to my regular bass track, duplicate the track with the events, and now I'm gonna call this octave bass. I'm gonna select all of them, right click, bounce to clip. That's gonna make it all one clip. And then I'm going to transpose this up by 12 steps, which is an octave. So go to Process, Transpose. 12 steps up, because if I were to go negative 12 steps, I would go 12 steps down, but 12 steps up. It's going to take its time to process that. And it's going to sound kind of goofy. I'll just solo it. Let's mix this in so that it kind of sits nicely in the back. Also, let's EQ it so that it's emphasizing those higher frequencies. We don't need the lower frequencies, we just need the higher ones. If I have it just like full force in there, it's going to sound really goofy. I mean, it does, in a way it sounds really cool, but it's not the sound I'm going for. Mix it on back, pulling back the gain. And those sections of ba-da-da-da-da-da was really where I noticed it the most. Bring it on back down. Boop. That's pretty good. Let's check this on our phone speaker track. Again, by muting the master bus and soloing the phone bus. It's really coming through. Maybe even a little too much. So that's telling me I could even back off this octave bass even a little bit more. I might just do that with compression. happy with that, how that's coming across as far as the bass goes. All of those things together results in a bigger sounding bass than without them on the phone. The first one was to set up this auxiliary simulacrum of a phone. The second one was to EQ those higher picking type frequencies in your regular bass track. The third was to use a saturator on your regular bass track. And the fourth was to make a copy of your bass track, run it up the octave, and then mix it back until it sounds pretty normal but is still present. All of those things should help to improve your bass presence on a phone in your tracks. I really hope that helped. I know I learned a lot by doing this, and this has changed how I'm going to be mixing my music forevermore. I hope you have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.